Hello and welcome to another installment of Kerbal Space Program. So today I want to show you what I came up with for when I tried to create about as simple a space plane as I possibly could. Something that was capable of getting into orbit while being pretty much as simple as possible. And this is what I come up with. Basically, it just has the one fuel tank, it has the Rapier engine, it's got the sort of stock swept wing, so it's not even the wing segments swept wing, just sort of that basic swept wing that you get. I put the standard canards for tail fins in a V configuration so that they double as both elevators and rudder. And then I've got the Rapier engine on the back and two radial air intakes to make sure that it has enough air. I also stuck a couple of ailerons on the end of the wing here. Now I've flown this into space. Although the last time I did that, I didn't have the ailerons here. So I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. I don't think it'll make any difference at all as far as being able to get it into space. And as you can see, I also have some solar panels here and a couple of retractable solar panels here because when you're in space and you don't want to use fuel to do steering, you need to have the torque wheels in your cockpit do the steering for you, do the orienting for you. And if you don't have solar panels and also this battery here, you may run out. So the battery's there for like when you're on the night side, the solar panels are there to recharge the batteries when you're in daylight. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into space. It's going to take a little bit, so I'll have some commentary as I'm doing this. So one of the things about the one of the nice things about the Rapier is that when it's in air breathing mode, it's a reasonably efficient and powerful jet engine. I don't think it's as powerful as the turbojet, but it's powerful enough for this. But as you can see, the fuel tank here that I've got is a standard, it's that sort of narrow double length rocket fuel tank, and that's all the fuel that I have. Now, when the Rapier engine is in air-breathing mode, it will draw fuel from the tank, but not oxidize it. So I want to head up at about a 45-degree angle. I'm basically just going to keep going. I've got the Rapier engine set for automatic switching. So as soon as it runs out of intake air, as soon as that gets down to 0, it will automatically switch over to closed cycle mode. Now when it does that, it starts gulping oxidizer, and not only that, but it starts gulping fuel at a much greater rate. You can see that my liquid fuel here is not being depleted very fast at all when it's in air breathing mode. But once it switches to rocket mode, you're going to see that go down fairly rapidly. But it also becomes more powerful. Now, one of the reasons for the design of this also is one of the things I've discovered in trying to build space planes, especially simple space planes, has to do with the weight distribution relative to the center of lift, or also you can think of it as the center of drag. The problem I run into is a lot of times what I'll do is I'll try to get the center of lift. You want to get the center of lift behind the center of mass. In other words, you want it to be a little nose heavy. That's standard airplane construction. You don't want it to be tail heavy, because if it's tail heavy, if you stall it, you may be unrecoverable because you'll never actually be able to get the nose pointed down and it just starts falling from the sky, fluttering like a leaf. So you always want it to be a bit nose heavy. But the problem is that as this fuel tank empties, it becomes lighter. And the heaviest thing on this plane is the engine. So the weight moves towards the back. So what I did was, by putting these guys back here, the center of drag is moved significantly back. Like the previous design I had these engines further back, and I had the canards up here in the front as actual canards. But what I discovered was that when the fuel tank was close to empty, the plane basically wanted to just tumble. It'd be going along, especially after you'd re-entered the atmosphere, you couldn't get it to fly straight. It wanted to flip over and fly tail first. And that's pretty standard in aerodynamics, is you basically want the center of drag behind the center of mass. It's the same way in rocketry. Because if you have, it doesn't actually matter where the thrust is coming from. It doesn't actually matter where the rocket engine itself is located, whether it's in the back, whether it's on the sides, whether it's in the up front somewhere. When you look at early fireworks, and even bottle rockets that you get today, the actual rocket part is at the top. It's at the front, and then there's a stick that sticks out behind. Let's see, we're about to switch over here to closed cycle mode. It'll happen automatically. You'll see this really start dropping. So, in fact, if I, looking at the pictures, if I'm interpreting the pictures correctly, Robert Goddard, who basically is the father of modern rocketry, who basically flew the first real liquid fuel rocket. Okay, you can see it just switched over to closed cycle mode, and it's actually going to start overheating here in a second. So I'm going to turn the throttle down a bit. I'm going to check the orbital map here because I want to make sure that I don't fly too high before I cut off the fuel. Anyway, his first liquid fuel rocket, the actual combustion chamber in the nozzle was actually up at the top, and fuel storage was down at the bottom. And it had pipes going up from the fuel storage up to the top where the rocket motor was. I'm going to let this thing get up to about 85 to 90,000 feet. Okay, boom. All right. Okay, so now I'm in a ballistic trajectory. I'm going to go ahead and tell this thing to point me there because I've still got a little atmosphere here, so I want to reduce my drag as much as possible. And now I want to set up a maneuver and circularize my orbit. Let's see how far am I. Whoa, that's way too far. I don't want that. 133. Basically want it to be about. Whoa, hang on. I've got to adjust where this is. That's close enough. Okay, we are out of the atmosphere now. We're about into space. So I'm going to go ahead and tell this thing to point me at the maneuver. And I'm going to deploy the panels here. But yeah, so Goddard's first rocket had the actual combustion chamber up at the top. It was a puller design. But because of the way it was oriented, the center of drag was behind the center of mass, so it was still stable in flight. So I've got 1 minute and 5 seconds. The burn is 38 seconds. I have more than enough fuel for 38 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a little bit just to get to the allotted time a little quicker here. Okay, slow that down. Set this to regular stability assist because once I reach the end of the burn, that node's going to fly off, and I don't want it to follow the node. Okay, here we go. Circularizing orbit burn, orbital insertion burn, I should say. I'm going to go ahead and switch to orbital view here, bring up the ball again. These maneuvers are kind of approximations. I haven't truly mastered this yet. Okay, so the burn is almost done, and I'm gonna just boom. Okay, so I let it burn just a little bit longer than I needed to, but here I am. Let's see, periapsis is 84,000, well above orbital distance, which is 70,000, and then the apoapsis is way up there at 171,000. So I'm in orbit. I don't know why I turned my RCS on, since I don't actually have any RCS jets, but and I go ahead and turn that off. I don't need that anymore. You can see I got full charge. Solar panels are set up. So now I'm in orbit. So now I'm going to just show you if you want to do a deorbit burn. I practiced this a few times. I still haven't figured out exactly when is the right time to do it, but there's the spaceport right there. So I basically want to come in so that I'm close enough to the spaceport when I enter the atmosphere that I can actually get there and land. Whoops, wrong way. No, that's not. That's actually, I want to go this way. Okay, so what's that? 40,000? So that's well within the atmosphere. So you can see that burn. It doesn't even register. I only need 44.9 meters per second delta V. So I have more than enough fuel to make that burn. And if you look here, I've got a little bit of fuel left. I wouldn't be able to travel very far in the atmosphere with that amount of fuel left. But also, like the last time I did this, I had more fuel left over. I was more efficient about it. So yeah, you can tweak it, you can just adjust your burns and everything like that so that you actually end up with a little more left over. But as you can see, I've got enough to get into orbit with just this one fuel tank. I've got enough to get back down, and with a little bit left over to do some flying once I'm in the atmosphere. And that is my very simple space plane. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.